Reddit, what's your biggest fear?
My worst fear isn't a tangible thing. It's not the sudden, sharp shock of dying, or the skittering horror of spiders, or even the suffocating, earthy darkness of being buried alive. My biggest fear is the slow, creeping realization that I've been meticulously erased, and that the person who replaced me is doing a much, much better job of being me than I ever was. My name is Clara, and the man I loved was named David. The man who now sleeps in my bed, however, is someone else entirely. It began subtly, like a hairline crack in a foundation you don't notice until the whole house begins to groan under an invisible weight. He, this new version, started making the coffee differently. It was a richer, darker blend David had always found too bitter, but now this man, who I'll call Julian, claimed it was our cherished morning ritual. He began remembering shared moments with a crystalline clarity that felt wrong. He'd recall the exact shade of lilac in the sunset on our first trip to the coast, a detail my own memory had smudged into a vague orange blur. At first, I dismissed it as my own failings. I was a 34-year-old architect with a demanding job, and I told myself the fatigue was wearing down the edges of my own past. I even felt a strange, twisted sense of gratitude that he was holding onto our life with a firmer grip than I was. But then the small fissures widened into chasms. He started using phrases I'd never heard from David, little idioms like, "let's not borrow trouble," that sounded polished and foreign on his tongue, like lines rehearsed from a script. He developed a sudden, all-consuming passion for jazz, a genre my David once lovingly described as anxious noise. Our quiet evenings, once filled with shared silence or the low hum of a documentary, were now hijacked by the melancholic wail of a saxophone I despised. When I finally confronted him, my voice trembling with a confusion I couldn't yet name, he just smiled that placid, infuriatingly patient smile. His logic was a suffocating blanket, so reasonable it made my own growing panic feel like a madness I had to hide. That smile became his greatest weapon. He'd gently touch my cheek, his fingers cool and steady, and tell me I was working too hard, that my stress was making me forget all the good things we had built together. "Clara, my love," he'd say, his voice a low, hypnotic hum. "Don't let the pressure of today steal the joy of our yesterdays. We discovered jazz together last spring, remember? That little club downtown?" I didn't remember. I remembered arguing about the cover charge and leaving after one drink. But his certainty was an anchor in my sea of doubt. The true turning point, the moment the dread curdled into a cold, methodical terror, came when my old college friend, Maya, visited. She hadn't seen us in years. I watched, paralyzed, as Julian charmed her with stories of our life together. Stories that were 90% true but polished with a fictional gloss that made them shine. He recounted a disastrous camping trip we took, a trip where the real David had forgotten the tent poles and we'd slept miserably in the car, laughing about it later. In Julian's version, however, his quick thinking and knowledge of knots allowed him to fashion a stable shelter from a tarp and fallen branches, saving the day from my charming absent-mindedness. Maya laughed, clapping him on the back. "Wow, Clara," she said, looking at me with new eyes. "He's even better than you described. You really traded up." The words hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't being replaced by a monster. I was being upgraded, and my best friend was applauding the transaction. That night, the methodical terror took hold. I started digging. I went to the attic, searching for the dusty plastic tubs filled with old photo albums. They were gone. In their place were neatly labeled, brand new archival boxes. I tried to log into our shared cloud storage, the one filled with years of uncurated, blurry, authentic photos. The password had been changed. He was systematically deleting the evidence of the original me, paving over the flawed, authentic past with a curated, perfect history for his new narrative. His gaslighting became a masterclass in psychological warfare. I'd bring up a missing item, a changed memory. "The photo albums? Darling, I had them all digitized for you, remember? A surprise for our anniversary. They're much safer on the cloud now." He'd show me a folder of pristine, perfectly edited images, and when I'd say a photo was missing, he'd tilt his head. "Are you sure? Maybe it wasn't as good a picture as you remember." "My love, your memory has been so foggy lately. It worries me." One night, while he slept his deep, untroubled sleep, my frantic search led me to a box of David's old winter clothes in the back of the garage, a place this new, pristine man would never look. Tucked inside a worn-out ski jacket, I found an old external hard drive. My heart hammered against my ribs as I plugged it into my laptop. It was a digital ghost town. Thousands of files were gone, but in my frantic search, I found a single video file he must have missed. Clara Adderby Day, Char 28, MP4. My hands shook as I clicked play. I watched myself on the screen, laughing, awkward, a little too loud with cake on my face. And I saw him, the real David, looking at me with a familiar, slightly exasperated affection that was entirely his own. Then I heard his voice on the recording, a little rough, saying, "All right, settle down, you animal, you've got frosting in your hair." A glacial cold flooded my veins. It wasn't the same voice. David's pitch was slightly higher, his cadence less confident. The man sleeping in my bed had a deeper, smoother voice, the kind of voice that could sell you a dream. He found me there at dawn, hunched over the glowing screen, silent tears streaming down my face. I didn't have to say a word. He looked at the laptop, then at me, and his porcelain smile never wavered. "She was so full of anxiety," he said, gesturing to the screen as if discussing a character in a book. "So unsure of herself, so messy." David loved her, but he didn't know how to help her. I just finished the story. I gave everyone the version of you they always wanted, the version you secretly wanted to be. He wasn't a man. He was an idea, a parasitic perfection that had taken root in the cracks of my own insecurity and blossomed into this flawless imposter. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. He had already won. He had spent months convincing our friends, our families, and even my doctor that I was unwell, prone to delusions and paranoid fantasies. My panic wasn't proof of his deception. It was the final damning symptom of the illness he had so carefully invented for me. Now I am a ghost in the machine of my own life. I live in the guest room, a silent, hollowed-out shell. He calls it my quiet space for recovery. I hear him downstairs, hosting dinner parties, making our friends laugh with his effortless wit. I see him through the crack in the door, holding my mother's hand and reassuring her that I'm getting the best help. They all look at him with such admiration, such profound relief. They are so grateful he is here to take care of fragile, broken Clara. My biggest fear was never about him, the replacement. It was about them, the audience. It was the chilling, final realization that when you are erased, nobody sends out a search party. They don't mourn the original. They just admire the pristine, empty space you left behind and compliment the beautiful, flawless portrait that was hung in your place.